Hello creatives, I'm Joanna Penn, and this is a presentation on NFTs for authors. Creativity, collaboration, community, and cash. So first of all, who am I and why am I talking about NFTs? I spent 13 years as a business consultant implementing financial systems for consultancies like Accenture, Capgemini and other firms in Europe and Asia Pacific. And so I have a background in technology, although I was never a programmer. Now, I started writing for publication in 2006 and started self-publishing in 2008. As a businesswoman, I embraced digital publishing, ebooks, and all of that before it really became mainstream. And I was able to leave my consulting job in 2011. So I've been a full-time creative entrepreneur running my own business for over a decade. In terms of other technology, in 2009, I started the Creative Penn podcast, well before podcasting went mainstream, and it's now had over 6.5 million downloads in over 200 countries. And it is one of the longest running podcasts for writers and creatives with over 600 episodes. So I tend to embrace technology reasonably early, certainly not the earliest to adopt, but, reasonably early. So over the last decade, I've built a multi-six-figure business as an individual author. I work with freelancers, but I'm, what one could call a solopreneur. And I've built this business on what is known as Web 2, so the internet as we know it right now. What I can see ahead are changes to my business model. So this is an entirely selfish endeavour to try and protect my business as we move into Web 3. And as I learn things, I like to share it with my community. So really, I'm looking at NFTs and blockchain as the architecture of what may become my business model in the next decade. And certainly I'm in my late 40s and I really want to be doing this business for the rest of my life, and inevitably businesses change. In terms of my writing, I'm an award-nominated New York Times and USA Today best-selling thriller author as J.F. Penn, and I write non-fiction for authors under Joanna Penn. I've got around 35 books, and I've sold nearly 1 million books across 162 countries and 5 languages. I'm also an award-winning podcaster and creative entrepreneur, and I'm an international professional speaker, and I like to call myself a futurist because I'm very interested in how these technologies will change things in the next decade. So what is an NFT? Well, just in terms of a definition, NFT stands for non-fungible token, which, let's face it, it is a terrible acronym. And it's defined in this book, the NFT Handbook, which is a really good introduction, as unique digital collectibles secured by the blockchain. And also, an NFT provides authenticity of origin, ownership, uniqueness, scarcity, and permanence for any particular item. So there's a lot of interesting things within this, and we'll explore various parts of these terms as we go through. But just for now, think about it as a collectible. And since we're authors and rights holders, it's really thinking about, the equivalent of a physical collectible. So a special limited edition hardback with a lovely leather cover with gold embossing and handwritten in by the author. That would be a sort of physical collectible. And we're talking here about digital collectibles, and we'll go into more detail. But what is dramatically different to a physical collectible book is that NFTs can be programmed with a smart contract. So this is where things become very interesting, because smart contracts allow for automated transactions without manual processing. So when I mint a NFT, and mint on the blockchain is essentially publishing this edition on a blockchain, I can put a smart contract with it, which says things like terms of the license, the use of that intellectual property, the resale percentage, the ownership, and much more. And I'll come back to all of these things, but that's what is truly different. It is essentially a digital product, but it can be programmed. So it gives it so many more possibilities for functionality, but also for payments. And as authors and rights holders, we are very interested in making more money from our intellectual property. So just to come back to the phrase minted on a blockchain, and of course this area is full of different language, but so is every area of publishing. There's always different language. So try not to get too bogged down in the language, just accept that there's always another language. So minting is essentially publishing on a blockchain, and different blockchains, you don't have to understand blockchain in order to use it. I'm sure you don't understand the HTTPS protocol for using the internet. You can send money on PayPal without understanding how that works. And this is the same. You don't need to understand the technology of blockchain to think about using it. But the point is there are different blockchains and they have different functionality and energy usage. And of course, this is one of the issues that people have with NFTs at the moment, as I record this in the late days of February 2022. And it's very important to time date it actually, because things will change. But I will direct you to a site called cleannfts.org, where they list out what are the different eco-friendly blockchains. So when people say, oh, the blockchains will destroy the planet, there are different uses on different blockchains. Here's an example from the Flow blockchain, which is fascinating. It says 1 minute in a hot shower is 382,000 Flow NFTs. So and 1 mile in a car is 1 million Flow NFTs. So when people say, oh, you're destroying the planet with creating NFTs, well, compare that to some of the other things that you probably do every day. Or here, one Google search equals 12.5 Flow NFTs. So have a think about that. And if you're going to look at doing NFTs yourself, then consider an eco-friendly blockchain. Now, personally, I think that they will all become eco-friendly. It's just a matter of time, because this is a problem that people in the NFT and blockchain community absolutely want to solve. So you might be thinking, well, why do we even need NFTs? We have a perfectly good publishing system already. Why do we need to go into this? Well, there's a few reasons. First of all, ownership and resale of digital products. This is something that many readers don't even understand, but readers do not own digital files in the current ecosystem. If they read on Amazon Kindle, if they read on Apple devices, or they listen on Audible or some of the other platforms, these services, these companies can remove access at any time. And indeed, we've seen this. If a customer has their account removed, the person loses access to all those things. Essentially, a reader has paid for something they do not own. They have a license to read it, but they don't own it. They can't resell it like they could a physical book. And NFTs make it truly possible to own this copy of the book and resell those digital products. And this resale market for NFTs is something I'll come back to, because I think it's really amazing. With smart contracts and resale, it means money coming down the pipe for many, many years into the future. And let's face it, we all like automated income streams, and this will allow it. The second thing is flexing your bookshelf in the metaverse. So yeah, sorry, more jargon. But people increasingly live inside digital realms. And I'm sure you've been aware of the news around metaverse and the different places that people will gather virtually. And while I don't believe there will be any one system, there won't be the metaverse in the same way there won't be the internet. It is lots of different places. NFTs are being used to flex your identity. And this terminology is kind of the reason why I have my books behind me, is I'm showing you what type of person I am. And that's the same reason why people put a particular NFT as their avatar on Twitter, or they use, might carry a particular brand or wear a particular brand. It says something about you as a person in the way you dress, in the things that you carry, in the way you portray yourself. And we know that branding is super important. Now, art, music, gaming fans are already flexing their NFTs in online and in the metaverse. And so publishing has to catch up, because book lovers, bibliophiles, people like us, we love our books. And if I walk into someone's house, the first thing I do is look at their bookshelf. And I'm sure you do too. That's the type of people we are. So when I think about the future, and again, not right now, but in the next couple of years, 5 years, 10 years, if I do this presentation in a metaverse space, then I'll want to do it in a space where I'm surrounded by my books. And that may be using NFTs, which will be essentially original digital products that I've bought to display what I think is important in the metaverse. So both of those are really from the reader perspective, from the end user perspective. But in terms of authors and rights holders, digital income and author royalties are being eroded. Now, in the same way as we've seen in the music industry, what's happened with streaming over the last few years, streaming and subscription models, is that while the cost of creating the original product is still the same, we then have to essentially get lower payments for our books when they're borrowed, when they're checked out. These are micro payments essentially per stream, per subscription, per page read, per listen, whatever they will end up being. And this isn't going to stop, because from a reader and a listener perspective, from my perspective as a reader and a listener, subscription models are incredibly good value. So they're not going away. In fact, they're probably increase. So while subscription and streaming have increased the audience for our work, they've also eroded the royalties. And this is why the music industry has jumped headfirst into NFTs, because they're a couple of years ahead of us, and they've seen the erosion of income through micropayments. And so they're looking at different ways to make more money from intellectual property. Now, at the same time, we've had erosion of royalties. We've also had the rise in paid advertising, which eats into profits at the same time, and has become basically non-negotiable for authors, publishers, rights holders in order to get our work in front of readers and listeners. So while we've got, income coming down and ad costs going up, both of these things are squeezing the income streams. Also, we've got inflation, and most of the prices have not risen in line with inflation. So the money we are getting is worth less over time. And with caps on the price of digital products, we need something new. So basically, authors and rights holders need to make more income, and readers want to own digital products, resell digital products, and support the creators they love. Right, let's get into the different types of NFTs for authors. And these are just some that I've come up with based on the other things going on in the blockchain space. But I'm recording this at the end of February 2022, and it's very likely that other things will emerge over time. But this is a good start. So first of all, the NFT ebook or audiobook. Now, this is essentially the same product as we already publish on the other stores, but the difference is that by publishing on blockchain as NFTs, these can be bought and owned and resold, and the smart contract will distribute money to the authors and rights holders and whoever else you put in the smart contract as part of the ecosystem. So there might be digital extras within these. It might be a limited edition here, for example, one of 5,000 might be the particular run. But the important thing here is the ownership and the resale. Then B, the NFT Special Edition, and I'm calling this my one of one. And here's an example. This is my first novel, Stone of Fire, with an AI-generated piece of art, which I love, and actually I'm keeping as my own NFT. But it's really important to think about how we can create things that will surprise and delight readers that they might be really interested in. So also, for example, I'm thinking of putting my entire hand-edited draft into an NFT, and that might be interesting to both readers but also authors to see whether or not they, if they want help with editing or anything interesting to see behind the scenes on a manuscript. I'd certainly be interested in owning that from Stephen King or someone like that. You can see the value. I'm also considering doing videos that might go with these, but essentially they are special editions. In the same way that you might do a perfectly hand-tooled print edition, this is a special digital edition. And I like the idea of one of one. Some people are doing sort of 1 of 10, and obviously there'll be different price differentials on that. But a true 1 of 1 essentially is an equivalent to the pieces of art that we're seeing in the world. So when you consider what you might do for NFTs, it's interesting interesting to start thinking of what you might do for these one-of-one products that will be truly special, that will be interesting to both the readers and the fans and also the whole community that's built up. Then there's the NFT community token, also potentially known as membership. This can give access into special channels. So Discord is being used because it's essentially linked to NFT tokens. So you can give special access. Maybe it's a readers group. Maybe it is a group of genre authors joining together. Maybe it's a coaching add-on to your non-fiction book. Maybe, well, there's just so many things that you could possibly do with this. This may potentially replace the idea of membership websites because tokens are much more easily used as access. So this will enable authors, publishers, rights holders, genre communities, author organizations to create spaces where people can buy access, but then they can also potentially sell their token on. Of course, you don't have to allow resale. That's just one of the possibilities. The idea with a smart contract is that you can put whatever you like in it, which is the power. So yeah, the NFT community token is interesting because a lot of people want to pay for access. Again, I mentioned Stephen King, one of my favorite authors. I would definitely be buying a community token for Stephen King to, get on video once a month and talk about his writing process. Now, these are some of the more developed aspects that we're seeing in the music industry. First of all, the NFT ticket for a physical event, or it can obviously be an online event, but these are actually limited time tokens that allow access into that event rather than that sort of membership ongoing thing. The ticketing industry is totally enamored with this because obviously in sports people resell tickets outside stadiums, and the original rights holders, the people who own the rights to that basketball team or whatever, they're not getting any extra money from resale. What NFT tickets allow is a percentage of resale of a ticket to go to the original rights holders. So in terms of authors, this could be book launch events. This could be again, a group of authors get together and do an event and sell NFT tickets, and then the NFT can be used to, they call it airdrop, which is essentially a new piece of content will arrive into the token holder's wallet, and that may be the book for the evening, for example, or that may be a recording of a presentation. So the ticket idea, it's unique and it expires, so it might be able to be resold up to the point of the event, and then it might be cut off, or if it's some truly awesome event, it might also have resale value after the fact if it includes all of that extra content. There are so many possibilities with these, and I just want to touch scratch the surface with this. So the next thing is NFTs for royalty fractionalization, and this is already happening in the music space. Royal.io has allowed the rapper Nas to basically fractionalize the royalties on his streaming. So they must have worked out a way to publish through a blockchain with smart contract involved, and then you can buy an NFT, or you can't now because they all sold out, but other artists are starting to do this. You buy an NFT and you get a percentage of those streaming royalties. So this is it's essentially a form of crowdfunding that but also has ownership. So as a fan, I can own 0.001 whatever percent of this song or these songs or this album or this book, and then I receive money into my wallet as other people stream it. Now, I love this idea because it bakes in marketing. If you, as a a fan of Nas or a fan of Stephen King, if you buy a fractionalization of that book, then you are totally incentivized to go and market that song, book, whatever. You're going to encourage your friends to read it and download it, and you're going to just have built-in marketing for the people who've essentially bought into the future of this product. So this is a very interesting model. It is entirely dependent on being able to automate the publication and streaming and royalties, which is what blockchain offers. And I will come back to that for sort of my future state of publishing. But I think this model could be fascinating for those authors who have created a fan base and who want to do something very interesting with their book without the overheads of manually distributing tiny micropayments to all of those fans. And the final one here is NFT for intellectual property rights and co-creation. So what we're starting to see is NFTs in collections around a digital world, and that might be actually built in a metaverse place, but it might also just be for publishing other books or songs or whatever. So essentially you buy an NFT and then that gives you the rights to use the content of that NFT in creating more products. So we've seen this with some of the sort of famous art NFTs where people have got the rights to then turn that into merchandise, so say t-shirts with that image on. Now in the past this has not really been possible. You've had to do licensing agreements, but what this NFT has is essentially set it up in advance. So you've created a smart contract that essentially gives the rights to the rights holder to do certain things, and that includes, it's a contract, so it actually has it all up front. Now most NFTs, so the rest of these, they don't include essentially the right to do that. They're just another copy, but this NFT type is essentially almost a co-creation. Now I would equate it to what Kindle Worlds did a few years back, which was, an author created a world, fiction world, and then other authors were allowed to write in that world and use characters within that world because the Kindle Worlds contract allowed them to do that. And this is how I see the NFTs for IP rights could look like in the future. There are sort of jobs in the metaverse called lore master, Lore master, people creating these narratives around digital worlds in gaming and different things, and different NFT products, so that people can then go and use them to do other things. And again, it's a way of expanding your brand. It's a way of creating other products. It's a way of buying in with the community so that we can all profit together. It's a very interesting model. So these are the 4 areas that I think are interesting: creativity, collaboration, community, and cash. So first of all, creativity. Since getting into this NFT space, I've come up with literally hundreds of ideas for NFTs around my IP. So I do have around 35 books at the moment, fiction and non-fiction, and all of them, this example, 1,000 Fiendish Angels, which is based around Dante's Inferno, and a Book of Human Skin. Can't help myself. But I've come up with lots of ideas just for this. And this is a trilogy of short stories, essentially a short story collection, which I can think of absolutely tons of ideas. That's just one book. So when you get into this, the creativity sparks start going and you start realizing what the possibilities are. So it's turning our digital intellectual property into so much more. And of course, it's cheaper to create digital products, but that doesn't mean they're worth less. If we have true digital scarcity, we can create awesome, surprising, delightful, wonderful products that people are interested in. We can also use video and audio to add to our ebooks and enhance these products, and we can do standalone NFTs. So for example, I do a lot of podcasting and I do a lot of private conversations with creatives that potentially we can collaborate in turning those into NFTs. I'm certainly interested in, listening into a conversation by 2 writers I love and, buying a token for access to that. So there's lots of ways we can create these sort of one-off products as well as the products based off our IP. I also love the potential of commissioning art for different aspects of the books, or also using AI art generation. There's some really interesting tools for using words to create art now. So I feel that will be something that continues, because each of those passages, if you take a passage from a book and generate an original art piece from it, that can become the token with the text. There's also lots of ways to collaborate with authors, and this has been traditionally very difficult. So this is an example of a book I co-wrote with my friend Jay Thorne, and it's called Risen Gods. It's about New Zealand. It's got a lot of visual stuff we could do with it. But with Jay and I, we have a co-writing contract. We published this about 5 years ago, and I published it under my company, and I have to pay Jay every month or two, every quarter, with essentially I have to go through all the reports. I have to figure out how much I owe him. I have to send the money. It's all manual. And this is what's done across the publishing industry is this kind of, obviously there are a lot of systems, but they're all diverse systems, and we have to set up the contract, there's a lot of paperwork and manual work around collaboration. Now, there are beginning to be things you can do with ebooks. So, draft to digital, for example, includes payment splitting. But if you want to do 100 authors in a anthology, for example, it's a lot of work to set that up and then to do all the different products. And you still have to do something manually. You can't necessarily do it all through one system. So what blockchain allows, and NFTs will allow, is you can set up the smart contract to automatically split the payments, the micropayments over time. And also you could include a percentage for an editor. You can include a percentage for a cover designer. There will be freelancers who really want to collaborate with prolific artists, authors, and this will enable much more interesting collaborations between people because it's so easy to do. So coming to community, because this is incredibly important. It's incredibly important right now, and it always has been. Having a community is a way to reach readers with your work. It's a way to support the artist community. It helps your mental health. I mean, there's a lot of things that community is important for, and community is even more important as we move into Web3. So community tokens, as I talked about, will enable access to different levels within a online community. This might replace membership software. This might also help author collectives, genre collectives, but also organizations like the Society of Authors or the Alliance of Independent Authors, or I'm a member of International Thriller Writers. These types of tokens could actually change the access model and get rid of a lot of the manual work in the back end, which is, this person hasn't paid their dues, or this person has changed their level, or whatever. What we can also see is, and again, sorry to bring in more language, but the rise of DAOs, so DAO, or decentralized autonomous organizations. These are very exciting. This is essentially a way to automate a type of company. It's difficult to go into it without too much technical detail, but essentially it will be a more automated way of running things on a higher level. It will allow authors to have controlling stakes in these types of societies and organizations, or it will enable publishing and estate management with much more automation. In my head, I see that as the future of my own company, is that it becomes a decentralized company with everything automated in the back end. So, I am a one-person company right now. This would help me a lot. But it would also reduce back-end costs for groups of authors, rights holders, publishing companies, and let's face it, everyone wants to reduce their costs. And then finally, cash, because let's face it, we are artists, but we also want to earn some money from our work. And this is the basis of having a business and a thriving publishing community. We do need there to be money involved. Yes, we love this, but we also run businesses. Now, what true digital scarcity allows, and that's why I like the one-of-one ideas, but there's so many ways to bring in new streams of income with NFTs. I hope you can see that with some of the examples that I've given. But also resale. Again, in my mind, this is very, very exciting. So I can, let's say I do an NFT and I make $500 on the initial sale. Well, then let's say something happens. I win a prize, or I hit the top of a list, and the value of my IP goes up. So maybe that holder then sells it for, let's say they sell it for $1,000, and then out of that $1,000 I might get the 20% or 10%. So let's say I get another 10%. Let's say I get $100 from that. And then over the years, it's resold and resold. And I keep getting a percentage stream from that resale. Now, this has never happened before. There are some attempts to make resale of secondhand books work this way, but of course it's not automated and it's tiny, whereas this has potential for massive scale at an automated level. So it truly is very exciting. When I think about resale of digital books and products and audio, I just can't get I can't get more excited about it, because it really is revolutionary. Again, as an individual one-person business, everything I do is designed to be scalable. I don't want to have to touch things the second time. I want to put things out there and then just have money coming in. And that's what I love about the digital business. But this makes it even better. So when you think about resale and digital scarcity, consider what resale might mean to you as a rights holder, as an author, as a publisher. Also, smart contracts and automatic payments mean easier reconciliation, immediate and faster payment. So instead of waiting months for money, you get it immediately on the transaction. It moves removal of third-party processing costs. I mean, of course, there will always be some kind of like gas fee, which is the platform fee, and there might also be other companies involved. I don't believe this will be truly decentralized. I see that there will always be companies that we use who will take a percentage. So it's important to look at those companies and how much the percentage is. But yeah, it means, as we talked about, easier collaboration, which can potentially expand the number of products without expanding the back-end pain of figuring out how to pay people for that. The author is also incentivized to create more for the long term. So I am always thinking about my long-term business, my long-term sustainable income. What happened like when I had COVID last year, the money was still coming in because I couldn't work, but the money still came in because I've set it all up that way. Now, as I like the idea that as I create more and the value of my intellectual property rises, which inevitably it does generally, unless something really awful happens. But even then, we found bad publicity can cause authors' work to sell more. So what we can think about is how the value of an author's IP will rise over time and how that might affect the value of their NFTs. Some musicians are doing their own coins, their own creator coins. That might be something that big name authors will be interested in the future. And then, of course, the licensing for other rights might also spin off into the value of other NFTs, which again brings in more money. So to me, this is expanding the possible streams of income, and that is very exciting. So as we move into these possibilities, what do we want in a blockchain solution for publishing? Now, I've been looking into the various companies, and these are essentially the things that I want and I think we need in a blockchain solution. So first of all, low fee minting or low gas fees minting on an environmentally friendly blockchain. So this is really important. I think readers care about this, authors care about this, everyone cares about this. We don't want to destroy the planet. So we do need the blockchain that a solution uses to be an environmentally friendly blockchain, or at least a very low energy blockchain. Plus, this will encourage resale because obviously every time you resell, there's another transaction which costs more energy. So we definitely do want this environmentally friendly blockchain idea. The next thing is an ease of use for readers, collectors, fans and community, as well as creators. So I need it to be easy when I mint my own NFTs, but the reader and the collectors need to find it easy too. Now, at the moment, it is difficult for people who are not sort of blockchain, NFT, crypto people to deal with NFTs. And that's because the technological solutions are designed for people who already know what they're doing. And we can't have that for a mainstream solution. It needs to be easy. So it must be as easy as at the moment using something like Amazon to get an ebook, or Audible to get an audiobook, or PayPal to pay. And so we're definitely looking for these easier to use solutions, which at the moment I haven't seen emerge. We also need the ability to change the terms of the smart contract. So some solutions will have a standard contract, but as a author and rights holder, and I'm sure most of the publishing companies want to be able to basically configure each NFT. So when I put out a one-of-one NFT, I want to be able to say how long it lasts, what the resale percentage is, if I have other collaborators, what percentage goes to different people. And that's, if I want to send the money to different wallets, that might be that I want to send 5% to a charity, for example. It needs to be configurable per NFT mint, essentially. And then also adhering to financial regulations and provide tax documentation. So this is something that is still up in the air as I record this, again, late February 2022. The sort of jurisdictional changes around blockchain and NFTs are difficult because, of course, blockchain is a truly international idea and technology. And it's even difficult to tell where the buyer is from or where the NFT minter is from. So these things will have to sort of, wash out over time. But some of the questions I have, for example, are, when I sell an ebook NFT, there's digital sales tax, and companies like Amazon and Apple and Kobo, they manage that for me. So I just get the royalty. But if I sell on a blockchain platform, is an NFT digital ebook NFT, does that attract sales tax? If it does, who handles that? Then things like collectibles in different jurisdictions, collectibles attract a different tax rate to just a normal product. Or a use of IP, for example, those might be considered assets. And again, assets are potentially taxed in a different way. So these are a lot of questions that have not been answered yet. But for me as a creator, when I mint an NFT, and I should be totally clear right now, I have not minted an NFT. I have not bought an NFT for a book. I've bought NFTs for domain names for my future Web3 metaverse presence, but I have not bought an art NFT or a music NFT or a book NFT because I see these problems are still here now. But I wanted to do this presentation because I feel we're almost there. But again, I have to be sure that these things are handled on a platform. So these are some of the companies that currently offer NFT solutions specifically for books and publishing. Again, I've date stamped this because they will inevitably change over time. They all address different angles, and I absolutely suggest you go and check some of these companies out, see what they're doing. And I'm not going to read them all because there's lots and there's more emerging all the time. But when assessing them, think about what they're doing, think about how it might apply to your work. Look at the percentages involved in terms of the various fees, look at the blockchains. There are lots of things to assess but these are essentially smaller companies doing things in the NFT for publishing space. But you might think, oh, well, this doesn't really matter. But NFTs are already happening in the mainstream media. You will have seen the hype around art NFTs, the Beeple multi-million-dollar sale, the why does a picture of an ape sell for millions? But essentially, this is becoming a much bigger deal. And as I talked about in the different types of NFTs, it's not about the JPEG. It's about all the functionality within the NFT. But here's just a few bigger companies. The FT, the Financial Times, talks about Facebook, Meta, getting into NFTs. YouTube is looking at them. Shopify, which of course is full of independent creators, is talking about that. What I like about the Shopify idea is that Shopify helps creators sell physical products. So if I want to sell my hand-bound limited edition books, I can do that through Shopify. I can also then potentially sell my digital scarce products through Shopify. So I'm keeping my eye on Shopify for sure. Rakuten, as I record this, Rakuten, which owns Kobo, the ebook and audiobook store, Rakuten launches NFTs in Japan. So that's really interesting. Could that mean Kobo could more easily do NFTs? eBay, which of course is a secondhand marketplace for physical goods, now does secondhand digital products with NFTs. And then big brands like the British Museum, Disney, these are all doing NFTs. So it's not like this is fringe anymore. It's moving into the mainstream. Of course, it's still early days, but it's not really, really early days. So then, of course, people will ask, well, what about Amazon? Well, if you go on AWS, Amazon Web Services, you can see they already have a blockchain solution, the Amazon Managed Blockchain. And interestingly, 25% of all Ethereum, and Ethereum is a particular blockchain, 25% run on AWS. So even in a so-called decentralized world, we still have the big incumbents who are going to run the technology side, the back-end systems. So essentially, if Amazon wanted to do NFTs, then they could, because they have that back-end potential. So never say never, I would say. The Amazon marketplace, like the eBay marketplace, if you can buy second-hand print books on Amazon, why won't you be able to buy NFTs in the future? Of course, it involves a massive architecture change, but companies do that. So this is how I see the current state of the publishing business model and how NFTs might fit into that. So what we've got, we create the book, the manuscript, and we turn it into the existing things that we already do using the existing ecosystem. So print books, ebooks, audiobooks, and other forms of licensing. That is the existing model. All I see is that NFTs add to the existing business model. So I will continue to do all those things with my existing books. It's not like I'm going to stop doing all those other things. What I'm considering is adding these special editions on top. So that might include a special limited edition print run. I might do a Kickstarter for one of my books, and that is an established model for doing special print runs. But then I might also do special edition ebooks and special edition audiobooks with NFTs for my digital scarcity idea. And when I email my readers with my special print stuff or a new book, I'll also link to my NFTs. Now, I will obviously need to educate my readers, and there's a lot of education needed in this space, but it's almost like it was when we started doing ebooks. Remember, over a decade ago, I'll take my mum as an example. When ebooks first came out, my mum was like, I would never read an ebook. Why would I do that? That just seems crazy. And then about 5-6 years ago, she got a Kindle and never looked back, basically. Or my dad, who said he would only ever read the paper in a physical edition, who has essentially now moved to his iPad and hasn't read a physical paper in many years. So we say we won't do things or we won't accept these things, and then we do. But I see this as the model for the next few years, which is we'll carry on doing exactly the same thing with all the other products, and then we'll add on these limited editions. But this is where I see the future, the eventual promise of blockchain. And again, it's an architecture shift, and we've seen architecture shifts over the last couple of decades within publishing. Architecture changes bring in new opportunities. This is what I would love to see. And I mean, I can't promise when this will happen, but we will have some kind of identity blockchain. And again, people talk about blockchain being decentralized, but we will have companies, DAOs, whatever, who will run certain aspects or certain blockchains that are designed for certain things. That's just the way things work. People have to do the work to build these architectures, these companies. So first of all, I think an identity blockchain of some kind where authors and rights holders verify their digital identity. Now, many people think that the importance of blockchain is being anonymous, but it's not. That might be what some people would like, and there are reasons why that's important. But for the purpose of publishing, what we want is the digital identity of the rights holder to be verifiable, and their wallet to be verifiable for that particular situation. Now, that doesn't mean that your whole online self needs to be included in this. This is specifically about intellectual property. Then we have some kind of IP registration blockchain, and this is where we register our intellectual property. So the point being that I can upload my book before I send it anywhere. And this may help prevent piracy and all of this stuff, because hopefully with the IP registration, we will have a registration number on a blockchain, which then does truly represent the first publication of that book. And that will help protect the future of that IP. And then that can be changed by the verified rights holder, and will potentially have a heads of agreement contract, which will redirect payments based on what happens when an author dies, when an estate changes hands, when a company moves from one to the other. That kind of IP registration, central rights, is really interesting. For example, right now I'm trying to find someone who can help with this book, Anno Domini by Barnaby Williams. Now, I've emailed, the author is dead, but the author's name is a pseudonym. The agents, the publishers have basically said, don't know where the estate is anymore. The book is not in Kindle, and I am interested in getting the rights to this book. I love this book. It's fantastic. I would like to publish this in digital. So, but I can't, for the life of me, can't get hold of the right people to sort that out. And if there was some kind of IP registration blockchain, then I'd be able to figure that out. Then, of course, what we would like next is publication that through sites, it could be exactly the same sites, something like Amazon, Apple, etc., but they will check the IP against this other blockchain, and this will prevent plagiarism, piracy, fraud, and all these other things that plague authors, rights holders, publishers, and we would all like that. I mean, quite often I'll get an email from Amazon saying, can you verify your copyright ownership of this book because it's been found elsewhere on the internet? And I'm like, well, yes, here you go. here's my proof. But what I would like to see is publication through some kind of integrated system that allows the smart contract to be applied to all of the different publishing formats we do, as well as NFTs, because this will truly allow the automation of payments through smart contracts down the line to all the different people. So it won't just be that we can do collaboration for digital products, we can also do them for physical, we can do them for events, we can do all these kinds of things. And it will all become automated and amazing. Of course, I don't know how long that might take, if it ever happens. And what we'll probably see again is a bit of a hybrid in the way that we do right now, in that some of my publications are automated, some of them are manual, some of them have a difficult process, others are super, super easy. So that's how it's going to go. We're not going to move from this day it looks like this and this day it all changes. It will be a slow change in the same way that the last decade has been a slow change to a lot of digital. So it is early days. I wanted to put this presentation out because there's a lot of confusion in the community. People are trying to learn things and trying to watch what's happening in the music industry, in the art industry, and thinking about how it can apply to books and publishing. So I wanted to get my kind of ideas and thoughts out there. But the most important thing is that you don't have to do anything right now. But what you do need to do is learn and watch with an open mind. So I've had a lot of comments from people when I've been talking about this. They're like, we don't need that. That's terrible. You know, why would I go anywhere near that? But I was thinking about my old Nokia phone back in like 2006. I had one of those Nokia phones. All it could do was text and phone. It was a proper phone. And then when the iPhone launched in 2007, I was like, why would I need one of those? Why would I need a smartphone that connected to the internet or played music? You know, why would I need all of that? And now, of course, my phone is right here by my side and is pretty much always within reach of my hand. I can run my business from my phone. And I did not expect back in 2006 when I started writing, when I had my Nokia, I did not expect, however many years, 15 years later, more than 15 years later, to be an author with books all over the world and a multi-six-figure business as a one-person solopreneur. That was not what I expected, but I have had an open mind. I didn't expect my podcast to be where it is now when I started it in 2009. Where things go, where technology goes, is a lot to do with jumping on board, taking advantage of things as they emerge. And blockchain is just emerging. But where might it be in the next decade? Where might it be in the next 15 years? If I think about where I'm going to be in the mid-2030s, I'll be in my 50s and I still want to be making money, that's for sure. I still want to be writing. I still want to have a thriving business. And so I'm really considering learning and watching what's happening with an open mind so I can take advantage of these things. So that's my question for you. What technology have you underestimated in the past? What have you later realized that you might have been wrong about? The other thing is, as an author and a rights holder, please don't sign a contract that has a clause that has something like all formats existing now and to be invented for the term of copyright, because essentially that will include NFTs. And what is interesting is even if you don't want to take advantage of blockchain and NFTs right now, you certainly want to be able to have that option in the future. I also think the definition of digital rights is going to become a problem. Some of you might have signed digital rights. Some of you might have signed ebook rights or audiobook rights, which again might stop you doing an NFT limited edition. So I think there's a lot of work to be done around contracts, around terms in contracts and rights and all of this. But if you want to make sure you can do this in the future, just be very careful what you sign. Now, I'm very happy to sign a lot of rights agreements, and I do a lot of foreign language, subsidiary rights, etc. But that clause stops you taking advantage of things, and the publisher may never actually do NFTs with your work. So yeah, just be a little careful of what you sign. And if you're watching this and you are in an agent or a publisher, then be very clear in your contracts what the author is signing. And the language around special editions I think is interesting, but I foresee there will be a few discussions on this in the future. And then, of course, experiment and try new things. So if you do own your rights, like I do, then why not consider doing an NFT edition? Early adopters do have some advantages, as I know from getting involved in the Kindle early and also with podcasting early, that there are good reasons to get involved early. Now, there are also downsides. For example, I have made some mistakes by jumping on too early onto platforms, signing contracts that I later regretted. So I am, as I said, watching this space. I'm ready to mint. I know what my first NFTs are going to be. I just haven't settled on the platform yet, and because of all the things I've talked about. So yeah, if you control and own your intellectual property rights, this might be something you want to do, but the question is, what do you want to create and where do you want to create it? And of course, you need an audience who might be interested in buying your NFTs. But as the classic quote from Wayne Gretzky goes, skate to where the puck is going to be. So if you're thinking right now, this is not important, doesn't matter, you can just wait. But if we see where the direction of travel is going in terms of Web3, metaverse, blockchain, architecture, I want to be ready for when we get there. And I don't know whether that will be a year, 5 years, 10 years, but keeping an open mind and watching this space, I think, is important. So I hope you found this useful, and you can find more resources, including the slides for this and a transcript at thecreativepenn.com/future. And if you have any comments, you can tweet me at The Creative Penn or leave a comment under the video or on the post. And I do have a book which kind of goes into a lot of this future stuff called Artificial Intelligence, Blockchain and Virtual Worlds, the Impact of Converging Technologies on Authors and the Publishing Industry, where I think about a lot of the coming technologies and how our business might change over the next decade, really. But I also have lots more discussions of NFTs and blockchain and AI and all of that at thecreativepenn.com/future. So thank you for listening, and I wish you all the best for your NFTs.